This is our final case study project by Ashley Krois, Andrew Cha, and Hoyong Kang. We did it on the educational system in South Korea, and we're going to be touching on 3 different topics, which you'll see as we continue to present. So the first topic is the importance of testing. This is a picture of students in a South Korean classroom. So the pros of testing in South Korea is that South Korea is one of the leading countries when it comes to test taking, and South Korean test scores are ranked second best in the world, below Finland, of course. And the cons include not all students are succeeding, which creates segregation by students, defining them as winners and losers based on their test scores. And also, tests create a high level of stress for students because, of course, you want to do good or do well. And the South Korean school hours are very long. The average high school age student gets on average 5.5 hours of sleep every single night. There even is a law made for students that study too much. Following the release of the 2009 program for international student assessment test scores, national media sources declared, "Wake-up call, U.S. students trail global leaders and competitors still beat U.S. in tests." These headlines were accompanied by fresh evidence purportedly demonstrating the U.S. education system to be second-rate, ranking lower than systems in leading countries like Finland, Japan, Canada, and South Korea, as stated by Berliner and Glass in page 12 of Myths and Lies That Threaten America's Public Schools. A frequently expressed criticism by teachers and school principals in Finland is that the matriculation examination results in teaching to the test, and thus narrows curriculum and increases stress among students and teachers, stated by Pasi Sahlberg on page 31 of Finnish Lessons 2.0. Although this quote is about the Finland education system, the students in South Korea and all over the world experience incredible amounts of stress when it comes to test taking. I do not see all of these wonderful students succeeding in schools. I see success attributed to a very narrow band labeled winners. The rest, whose gifts are immeasurable, struggle to stay awake and in tune with their high school years. Their skills are not valued there, stated by Julia Williams, who wrote Jules on Schools. There's also a staff rotation system in South Korea, which is very different from the American education system, because school staff, including teachers, principals, and vice principals, change schools every 4 years regardless of personal opinion. After every 4 years of working at a school, the staff goes through a lottery system to select their new school. The purpose of this system is to expose teachers to a diverse school environment while offering the students a wide array of teachers throughout their academic careers. The goal of this system is to provide fair opportunities for both the students and the teachers.
Nextly, I'll be talking about the economical background and influence on students. In South Korea, majority of students go to a place called Hagwon. Hagwons are simply the after-school academic workplaces that can be explained in a sense of cram school, tutorial school, or private education institutes. This so-called Hagwons benefits the students national-wise by requiring larger demand for creating more diverse education methods and more educators as well. Such programs let students do the preview for their future and deeper studies. However, this is not required by schools, but since everyone else is taking parts in the after-school education programs, it is likely that students will fall behind if they don't take such additional programs. Also, due to high prices of such after-school programs, the amount of studying resources each student can differ dramatically based on their economic stance. Firstly, the Pasi Sahlberg on his book Finnish Lesson, page 61, states that all students must have access to high quality education, regardless of where they live, who their parents might be, or what school they attend. This, in other words, means that all students must be benefited with different resources to study despite their home backgrounds, which creates the true equality between the young learners. Julia Williams on page 24 to 25 on her book named Jules on Schools. She asks us to ask ourselves a question about the current education. Do we believe that only a few should be named the champions and the rest be labeled those who are not? This also shows how the economical background can affect the learnings of the students as well. Lastly, David Berner and Ginny Glass on page 15 of their book Myths and Lies That Threaten America's Public School, while explaining the reasons for why the U.S. has one of the lowest PISA programs for international student assessment scores compared to other leading nations, David Berner explains that the modest U.S. national average is reasonably attributed to a child poverty rate that exceeds 20%, which is considerably higher than comparable countries. Finland, which is also another known country for having the best educational systems, has lower than 5% child poverty rate, and child poverty rate is also related to the economical stance and their home background of the students as well.
That I'll be talking about is the cultural identity crisis that some of the South Korean students go through due to having to learn English. So the pros. So in South Korea, children are expected to learn English and start to learn English from an extremely young age. They start actually when they start learning Korean. This is obviously, I think, a positive because having the ability to speak another language gives a student a different perspective and different ideas and different viewpoints from a different culture. Also, being bilingual can positively benefit your ability as a student to learn different things. But the cons. So there's an emphasis on English in Korea that's gone overboard. It's kind of considered the pseudo second language in South Korea, which is not a huge problem, but where the issues lay are with the education. So English is actually its own section in the Korean ACT called the Sunung. Also, due to this extreme emphasis on English, Koreans, especially the millennials, are losing the touch with their own culture. So the first quote is from Berliner and Glass on page 108. Rather than compromise students' brainpower, bilingual education has been found to add to students' cognitive flexibility, allowing them to think about and apply the subtle meanings of different words in two or more languages. This obviously shows you that being bilingual is obviously a positive in certain aspects. It also says in Polly Salzberg's book on page 108, Finnish teacher education is now academic, meaning that it must be based on and supported by scientific knowledge and must be focused on the thinking process and cognitive skill. So with the data and the academic research that Berliner and Glass did, they obviously know that being bilingual is a positive. And with that scientific knowledge, South Korean educators should continue to strive to teach and strive to make more of the students bilingual because it's obviously a positive. But also, according to Williams on page 92, I have always known the schools are the womb for the society and we wish to create or to replicate. So in schools, we should try to strive for try to strive and have students be bilingual, but at the same time, we should try to strive and retain what's important to us and our culture. We shouldn't lose the touch with our culture. We should also understand that who we are is what makes us. Our cultural background is what makes us so unique and different, and that should be celebrated and shouldn't be looked down upon. So, suggestions for improvement. First, I think we should find an alternative way to nurture students. Instead of going through this holistic way of testing everybody and just making it all about competition, there should be a different way and a different method that we can use in our curriculum to nurture students in a more positive and overall sense. More focus should be put on mental health, especially in South Korea, because like we said, the suicide rate is extremely high in South Korea due to many of the stresses that come along with being a student in South Korea. And also more emphasis should be put on collaboration instead of competition. I think this can be said in the US system as well, but competition I don't think really gets us anywhere. Helping each other and everyone getting to that goal should be what we strive for. We should also create opportunities for students who aren't able to afford some of the after-school programs that some students can take in South Korea. Making it available for everyone so that we can all succeed. And then we should also try to learn from other cultures, but at the same time not lose touch with our own.